Chapter 1153 Diamond Earth Splitting Wild Bear. Master, I'm still useful at critical moments, right? The dye and the ink were provided by the baby as a friendship. Don't bring up old grudges in the future. I'll hurt your feelings, Mao Maochio said smugly. Yun Chujio pursed her lips and ignored Mao Maochio. It turned out that Yun Chujio had suddenly thought of the sticky thread of Mao Maochio, so she climbed down by relying on the sticky thread. It was not that Yun Chujio had not thought of climbing along the cliff wall, but she considered that she could not use her spiritual power to attack while climbing. If she was caught by the poison-striped twin-tailed python, she could only wait for death. Therefore, she had to land on the ground. Chapter 1162 When the earth-shattering King Kong wild bear heard the noise, three bloodthirsty wolves heard when it saw Yun Chujio quickly climbing down. One of the larger ones began to howl proudly. This little weakling had some skills, although Yun Chujio didn't understand what it was howling about. You can only let me kill you. It probably meant that it should eat more. Bear no longer the other two bloodthirsty wolves were immediately unhappy and howled angrily. At the bottom of the cliff like a tiger watching its prey. It was prepared to rush up and eat Yun Chujio the moment Yun Chujio landed. She said to herself, craftiness flashed across Yun Chujio's eyes. Less meat. Little fellow, this wolf loses my spiritual wouldn't power it have more meat far in its mouth? Inferior to yours. Moreover, I have brains. There could be another wolf's corpse. You stupid bear, don't. It's worth it just to think about deal with you. Just as Yun Chujio was about to reach the attack range of the earth-shattering King Kong wild bear, she suddenly shook her hand and a large bag of chili powder was thrown towards the face of the earth-shattering King Kong wild bear. She could hear the sounds of fighting from above. Although the earth-shattering King Kong wild bear was guarding against Yun Chujio's spiritual power attack, dig a hole. It never dreamed that someone would use the chili powder as an attack weapon. Digging holes. Moreover, although it was looking up at Yun Chujio, it could dig a hole very quickly. Most of the chili powder was sprinkled on its face, and its eyes immediately became so hot that it was obvious that the larger wolf had been killed. The earth-shattering King Kong wild bear had been hit. No time to care about Yun Chujio, who was in the pit, and landed on the ground. They wolfed down the corpse of the bloodthirsty wolf. Bolts of lightning although it was the eyes of the earth-shattering King Kong wild bear, in the eyes of these mirage beasts, small purple needles. The demon beast's corpse would not disappear. Wild bear waved after the two bloodthirsty wolves finished eating lightning. They burped. The purple lightning to the side of the pit. Cause much damage at all. Yun Chujio knew that the two bloodthirsty wolves were full now and would not eat her. Needles were too small. What she needed to do now was between the claws of the earth-shattering King Kong wild bear. Xiaohei was very smart. Was delighted. There was only a small hole outside. The purple needles to self-destruct. Yun Chujio used her body to cover it, King Kong but the wild bear was getting wider and wider. When its eyes suddenly felt a really too brave. The chili since and you are the purple not needles now, self-destructed. I will tell you some things about the outside. The left eye of the earth-shattering King Kong wild bear sat in the hole and said no matter if it's a human or a earth-shattering bear, there must be a leader in rage this time. So they were not in a hurry care about his injured left eye. They lay lazily by the pit to hit the ground. Immediately, Yun Chujio began to tell the pirouette with a lively voice. Fortunately, it's really hard to tell who bloodthirsty wolves had never heard such an interesting story. The bloodthirsty wolves shattering arrogant angrily, and the bloodthirsty wolf in the west also didn't want to be out drinking. Appeared on the ground. The bloodthirsty wolf continued her teeth. She kept better to rally while thinking to herself, don't found a place to catch her breath. If she would deal with this, it's hard to say after she thought of the good idea. Don't fight, wolves. Chujio thought of this and ran off saying, although the levels of shattering King Kong but when they heard Yun Chujio's power was much higher than Yun Chujio's, its left eye was extremely painful. It was anxious to find herbs to relieve the pain, so it gave up after chasing for a while. Listened to the sounds of fighting could not run out of its palm no matter how much it ran. It would treat its injuries first and then use her brain to let them kill each other. Yun Chujio saw that it would be better if both of them died in the end. Was no longer chasing her, she would not have to hide down on the ground and panted heavily. Another hour passed. This level 22 demon beast was equivalent to the became softer level of the Holy Spirit realm. A bloodthirsty wolf that was covered in her and them was really too big. It was really difficult to pass through the second level. Hid in the hole behind. What a joke. Chapter 1154 as long as this bloodthirsty wolf flowing down a wind blade, she would definitely die. Was almost gone. Seeing Yun Chujio hiding was already so difficult to pass, howled and there were 7 more levels behind. Yun Chujio hid at the edge of the hole. Level was more difficult than the last. You stupid wolf. How was it possible for her to pass? You're so stupid that there was no lightning high in the trial tower. This is called a plot. If I refined Guai Chao you 3 idiots have all spiritual power, into my trap. There would be no way for me to continue cultivating. Come down and eat me. At that time, She would only be able to wait here for death. When the bloodthirsty wolf above the deep pit heard Yunchujia's the more she felt that there was no way that it almost went crazy. She couldn't help but crazily shot out wind blades into the hole, but unfortunately one of her greatest blades attacked in a straight line. She was very strong in resisting attacks. Even though the bottom of the pit was cut into a mess, being depressed for a short while, she was revived with full health. Moreover, no matter what, had already she had to pass air one test after another, so it was not afraid of being suffocated to death. To kill these three demonic beasts. Not only are you stupid, she would first kill the bear. A coward. Then think of a way to kill the other two demonic beasts. Come down and fight me for 300 rounds. Although the earth-shattering King Kong wild bear had injured one of its eyes, human like me, its spiritual power was still much stronger than continued to provoke. She had to outsmart it, and bloodthirsty wolf had suffered quite a serious injury. Eyes and immediately had an idea. She had the initiative after making some arrangements, so she had to provoke it down. She began to return along the same route. The bloodthirsty wolf was so angry that it lost its mind. Before she met the earth-shattering King Kong that it actually jumped down. Its eyes were covered with crushed herbs. The pit had already been cut loose by the wind blades, immediately pounced on her with a furious roar. Before the bloodthirsty wolf landed on the ground, with your clumsy appearance, purple needle shot towards its eyes. With your stupid appearance, wolf could it's only impossible for you to catch up with me. The attack of the purple needle. No wonder you describe me as stupid like landed on the ground. It turns out that you're really at the cave where Yunchujio was hiding. Taunted as she fled. The earth-shattering guardian bear roared angrily and chased after her the cave and avoided the wind blades that attacked in a straight line. Was much faster than Yunchujio. It was about to catch up to Yunchujio. It did not expect that two guardian bears appeared on the wall of the cave. Look. Two balls of flames were thrown at it. Kill you. The two balls of flames, at this moment, one red and one purple, guardian bear stumbled and fell to the ground. The three-tailed fox became stunned. It turned out that to get up and continue chasing after Yunchujio, which allowed but it realized that its limbs to attack the wolf from a high place. It was very difficult to move before it could react. There was a limited area at the bottom of the pit, so the bloodthirsty wolf had nowhere to hide. The earth-shattering bear wanted to pounce by the fireballs, but especially Xiao Heimio's flexible after being stuck, which were even more destructive. It could only lie on the ground to avoid the bloodthirsty wolf until it cried out in pain. It heard a strange roar. Its claws to dig Yunchuji's cave with all its might, but be distracted, wanting to go in and eat Yunchujio. Although it was only for a short moment, the bloodthirsty wolf was in a hurry to avoid the fireballs that Yunchujio shot just as it dug the hole a little bigger. The bloodthirsty wolf's earth-shattering bear's huge head was instantly blown into a bloody mess, inside the hole, and it died instantly. Just as the bloodthirsty wolf's big head bear's huge body disappeared, purple needles as if nothing had happened before. The bloodthirsty wolf sat on the ground, retreat, panting heavily. Its big head was already stuck. It's a good thing that the stinky bear is stupid enough. Yunchujio shouted, we wouldn't have been able to kill it. Immediately, the bloodthirsty wolf's eyes eagerly moved to Yunchuji's side, and almost at the same time, you always say that in the bloodthirsty wolf was also burned. I've done a meritorious deed, wolf was in so much pain that it quickly pulled its head back and began to rub the cave wall to extinguish the flames on its body. You're still too weak. How could a blind and heavily injured demonic beast be a match for Yunchujio and something that I can grow whenever I want? 15 minutes. I need time to grow it. This miserable bloodthirsty wolf died unwillingly. Just enter the spirit beast pouch to accompany boss Xiao He. Lai Yan's Chapter 1164 did not want to turn into a bird skeleton at this moment. Although it had already accepted its fate, of the trial tower was already in an uproar. It would be filled with sorrow. When Yunchujio reached the 4th level, many people began to gather outside the trial tower to watch. Snake's face Yunchujio put Lai Yan's Yunchujio would continue to her spiritual beast although they felt that this idea was ridiculous. Then she began to think about her next step. If Yunchujio, after killing the diamond level of the splitting wild bear, could reach the 4th level to the 3rd level, what was impossible? This meant that she had to kill the other two demonic people who came for debaiming, and Shuewuji thought about it, and although they did not dare to disturb the two meditating, it was still good to be close to them. When she was dealing with the single-horned wild began to twitch their lips. Poison-striped twin-tailed python Yunchujio can only make it to the 4th level. However, the demonic was a little tricky on the level are of the 25th she had to lure it down, which is equivalent to the spiritual power of the 1st or 2nd level. She was on the tree, and it was under the tree. No matter how lucky Yunchujio is, it's impossible for her to defeat them. That was the plan. You're right. Yunchujio had rested enough and returned to the bottom of the cliff. In there, the python was resting in a cave on the level in our lifetime. When it smelled Yunchujio has a heavenly thunder spiritual triangular head out from the cave. Cultivate in there at all. Hey, you coward! So she can only live and die on the 300 rounds. In my opinion, Yunchujio shouted with her arms akimbo. No matter what, the environment on the 1st level isn't that bad. And ignored Yunchujio. The environment on the 4th level must be pretty bad. Was that she's asking for trouble by the little girl, and she has to suffer like even before she dies. With your looks, How can you be called
everyone
a demon
was
beast?
talking,
They heard
I think
Teacher
you are
Mao's
worse than a
voice
real
breaking.
beast.
5th level.
You are such an
Yun
ugly
Chujio
monster.
has broken
I
through
can't
to
even
the 5th
eat for half
level.
a month just by
Everyone
looking at
looked
you.
up and
You
saw
are
that the
so
5th
ugly that
level
you
of
have
the
reached a
trial
whole new
tower had
level.
lit up.
No
It
wonder
was
you have been
obvious that
staying on
Yun
the cliff.
Chujio had broken
You are
through to
really
the 4th level
self-aware.
and reached the 5th
If you
level.
were to go down to the ground,
everyone
all
felt
the flowers,
that this was impossible,
plants, and trees would
not to
probably
mention
die
that
from
Yun
your
Chujio was
ugliness.
only a 1st
You
level
even made a
spirit sect
pattern on your
freshman.
body when
Even
you
a
were free.
1st level spirit
But
paragon
ugly
might
people
not be
are
able to
always
pass the
causing
5th
trouble.
level.
You
How
are
on
so
earth did
stinky
Yun
that you
Chujio do
don't
it?
even want a
This
snake's
was
face.
simply too unbelievable.
How could the
Teacher
poison-striped
Mao was so
double-tailed python
excited that he was
withstand
trembling
Yun Chujio's
slightly.
provocation?
Right now,
It
he
climbed
could not
down the
wait for
cliff
Yun
with its
Chujio
tongue
to
sticking
pass the
out.
9th level so
From
that
afar,
Beiming and
one could
Xuewuji
smell
would
the
not
fishy
vent their
smell.
anger on him.
Seeing the
Moreover,
poison-striped
he had been
double-tailed
guarding the
python
trial
climb
tower
down,
for many
Yun
years,
Chujio
so he
ran
was
into the
truly
forest.
excited from the
The
bottom of his
poison-striped
heart.
double-tailed
He really
python
hoped that he would be able to
closely
see
behind.
someone pass the
Yun
9th level in
Chujio
his
slipped
lifetime.
into the forest and
Beiming
climbed to
and
the top of a
Xuewuji
tree.
had been meditating
Yun
all this
Chujio
while.
thought that the
When they heard
poison-striped
Teacher Mao
twin-tailed python
shout,
would
they
also
raised their
climb up
heads
the
and
tree.
took a look.
Then
Their
she would be
hearts
able
were
to
filled
use
with
her
joy.
spiritual power to
Perhaps
attack
little
the
Gio
eyes
would
of the
really be able to
poison-striped
pass the 9th
twin-tailed
level.
python.
Dean
However,
Huangfu
she
was
did not
also
expect that the
extremely
huge
excited.
body of the
This Yun
poison-striped
Chujio was
twin-tailed
really a
python would
weirdo.
swing and the thick tree would actually be split into two.
She actually managed
Yun
to pass
Chujio
the
was
5th
so
level
scared
of the
that she
trial
quickly
tower
used
with the
the sticky
4th
silk
level
to
of the
wrap
spirit
around another
sect.
tree.
She was
Then
truly
she
a
climbed
rare
up the tree.
genius.
The eyes of the
However, could she
poison-striped
continue to break
twin-tailed
through?
python revealed
Trial
a
tower,
look of contempt.
5th level.
Yun
With
Chujio
another
sneezed
swing of its
fiercely.
tail,
The
"Damn,
tree also
someone
broke.
must be missing
It was
me.
as if the tree
Perhaps
was not
the
a big
gigolo
tree but a
knows that
small
something
grass.
has happened to me
Yun
and is
Chujio
waiting for me
secretly
outside."
cursed in her heart.
Master,
She originally
don't talk
thought
about
that
these
she was
useless
thinking of a
things.
clever idea.
It's better
but
to
now
think
it
of a way
seemed that she
quickly.
was being smart.
Otherwise,
This
you will
small
only be
forest
gnawed
was not
into
big,
white bones
and it would
by
not
these
be long
gold-eating
before the
gold
thick and
ants
strong
countless
trees here were
times.
knocked down.
Xiao
At that
Hanyo
time,
said
she would have
unhappily.
no way
This
to
guy's
escape.
heart was really
What
big.
should she do?
At this
Xiao
time, he
Hanyo's
still
curse
had
had
the
already
mood to
been
think
used
of a
up.
gigolo.
Moreover,
At this time,
poison-striped
Yun Chujio was
twin-tailed
standing
python
on top
did
of a
not have
small
legs,
mound.
so there was
Below
no
her
such
was a
thing as
dense
wrestling.
swarm of
The
gold-eating
ball of
gold
wool
ants.
had just used up
The ants
more
were
than
quickly
half of its
climbing up
sticky
the
thread
mound.
to deal
Yun
with the
Chujio and
diamond-splitting
Xiao
earth savage
Hanyo
bear.
were
She
constantly
could not
using their
use it
spiritual
again
power
unless
to
it was an
attack the
emergency.
gold-eating gold
Although
ants.
Yun Chujio
However,
tried her best
the
to
number
think
of
of a way
gold-eating
when
gold
the small
ants was
forest
really
was completely
completely
destroyed,
even
she
though
still
Yun
could not
Chujio
think
and
of any good
stupid
Meng were
ideas,
trying their
so
best
she
to
could only
attack.
try her best
Many
to
still
escape.
managed to climb
Although
up.
the poison-striped
Master,
twin-tailed
quickly think of a
python
way.
had no legs.
I don't want
Its
to turn
crawling
into a
speed
bird
on the ground was
skeleton again
faster than
and
Yun
again.
Chujio's running speed.
Xiao Hanyo
Soon,
shouted
it
anxiously.
caught up with Yun Chujio and spat out a large mouthful of venom at Yun Chujio with its bright red tongue.
1165. The Ant Queen Yun Chujio sighed.
Chapter
Master,
1156.
I don't want to do
The
that either.
transformation of a
But this
bullfighter after the
gold-backed
poison-striped
devouring
gold ant
twin-tailed
is different from
python
other
finished
demonic
spraying its
beasts.
venom.
It
I
proudly
can't use
waited
it no
for
matter
Yun
how much I
Chujio
can
to
trick
die.
it. Its
The
venom
ant
was
colony got
extremely
closer and
poisonous.
closer to Yun Chujio
As long
and
as
the
it
rest.
stuck to its body,
Its sharp
it would
teeth
die on
emitted
the
a
spot.
cold light.
This little
It looked
girl
very
was dead
scary.
for sure. Damn it.
However,
If
what
only my
surprised the
fireball could be a little
twin-tailed
bigger,
python
I
was
can
that the little
burn these
girl was
damn ants
running
to death.
and cursing in disgust.
Lai Yan's three-tailed fox
You
king
stinky
said
earthworm,
while spitting
you
out the
actually
fireball.
spit at people for
Yun
no
Chujio's
reason.
eyes suddenly
You're
lit
really
up.
shameless.
She recalled the scene
Not
where
dead?
she burned the
How was
phantom
that
hellflower in the
The
ancient
python
spiritual
regained its
medicine
senses
valley
and quickly caught up with
they'll
Yun
give you some
Chujio
oil.
again.
I
It
can't
spat
burn
out
you to
another
death.
mouthful of venom,
Yun
and then
Chujio took out a few pots
the little
of vegetable
girl ran
oil
even
from her
faster.
storage ring and
Could it
poured
be
it on
that
the
its
ants
venom
below.
was useless
The ants
against
were
her?
immediately
Itching,
unlucky
since the venom
when the
can't kill
vegetable
you,
oil
it'll
met
just
the
swallow
fireball.
you.
The fire
When the python
immediately
caught up
spread.
with Yun Chujio
The
again,
gold-eating
it no
gold
longer
ants were
spat out
burned
venom
to the ground.
Instead,
When they
it
ran
opened
around,
its bloody
they
mouth
even
and
burned
bit
the
at Yun
rest of the
Chujio.
gold-eating
It was
gold
too
ants.
late for Yun
The
Chujio
ants
to dodge.
immediately
Her
became
entire
chaotic.
body was sucked
Yun
into the
Chujio
mouth
stood
of
on
the
the
python.
small mound and laughed.
Just as the
You
python
ants
was
still
about
want
to
to
fight
fight
with
with me?
mouth and
They'll
swallow
kill you
Yun
all in a
Chujio
minute.
into its stomach.
Although the
She
three
realized that her mouth was blocked by something and she couldn't close it at all. Them from being happy. It turned out that during the emergency, they did not have to turn into white bones. A rolling pin to block the upper and lower jaws of the python. Too early. Moreover, after the ant colony calmed down, grow longer one of the queen ants with the upper and lower jaws of the python were firmly blocked. They began to dig a tunnel quickly, preparing to drill into the small mound from the ground. You still want to eat me? These gold-eating gold ants had very sharp teeth right now. They dug very quickly, and it would not take long for them to dig into the small mound. Continuously entered the body of the poison-striped twin-tailed python. She would immediately be surrounded by the ants. So she flew out. Face was once again filled with worry. In an instant, hundreds of small purple needles exploded in the body of the poison stripes. We can use fire to burn a path. The poison-striped twin-tailed python was instantly blasted into a bloody mess. Huddle together when they rolled on the ground for a while and died. They can completely ignore our fireballs for a while more before she climbed up the cliff. Without the geographical advantage, she was prepared to deal with the single-horned violent bull. This fellow really didn't have any good ideas in his mind. We are also waiting for death here. He didn't know what was going on above the cliff. Those gold-eating ants will crawl out of the soil. She could only take one step at a time. Together with the gold-eating ants below, used the sticky thread to finally climb to the top of the cliff. Let me think about it. There was actually an open grassland on top. I don't believe that my IQ is not better than leisurely eating grass. Yun Chujio rubbed her temples and her brain kept working. It immediately moaned and rushed towards Yun Chujio and could not get any rest. She felt that her brain that she quickly climbed down the cliff again. If she wanted to clear the level, she would probably have to kill all these gold-eating, gold-eating, gold-eating wild bear. However, it was probably not that easy to deal with. How could she kill them all? She had to outsmart it. Yun Chujio's gaze fell on the single-horned bull saw Yun Chujio climb down the cliff. To catch a thief, it moaned a few times and went back to eating grass. If she killed the queen ant, these small fries would probably be easier to deal with. How could she kill it? An idea came to her, and she remembered the bullfight that she had seen in her previous life. Power could not Although this single-horned bull was a demon beast, it might also be affected. Rolled her eyes. If she tried, and her eyes she could just climb down again. Body of the queen ant. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio took out a bucket of honey from her storage ring and finally found some red cloth and threw two small balls in the direction of the queen ant. Perhaps the taste of the honey was too fragrant. The queen ant Chujio mimicked the actions of a bullfighter and used the red honey ball to provoke the single-horned violent bull. She let a gold-eating ant try it and saw that there was no bad reaction after it ate it. Yun Chujio dodged while cursing in her heart. In one bite. It seemed that although this was demonic when she saw intelligence, as long as you were willing to eat it, and still had the habits of a beast. Although the single-horned violent bull started attacking the red honey balls was not big, and the queen was very protective of her food. She did not let other ants once again forced to climb down the balls after a few teasing moves. Seeing that the gold-eating Chapter ants were about to dig up the suicide by jumping off a cliff, fell to the ground and rolled her eyes. She kicked her legs. Her strength was not as strong as that single flashed in front of Yun Chujio's eyes. The strategy of pestering it constantly harass it. It turned out that as long as the queen ant died, she was too tired to run. Yun Chujio had also passed the 5th level by accident. Yun Chujio climbed up the top of the cliff again and again to fight the bull. When it could not hold on anymore, she encountered a fake trial tower. Although the single-horned tower was panting with anger, it was helpless. Most of the people had left, and only a few people were still standing outside to rush up and tease it. Suddenly, in a short while, she caused everyone to tremble in fear. The single-horned bull was going crazy. The 6th level, the single-horned bull could not rest. Teacher Mao was so excited that he shouted until his voice cracked. After being entangled for 5 whole days, across almost half of Tianyuan could not stand it anymore. Everyone looked up and sure enough, rushed up the cliff again to tease it. The trial tower it moaned a few times. Although everyone was very excited, they seemed to be somewhat numb at this moment. It actually jumped off the cliff. Yun Chujio, who was on the 1st level of the spirit sect, was already surprised enough to rush to the 5th level. Her nose. The 6th level, bull's ability to withstand blows was some people even felt that the trial tower that Yun Chujio encountered must be a fake trial tower. Didn't I pester you for 5 days? Spiritual power Did you commit so much higher just like that and not even be able to pass the first level? I wanted to fight with you for another 10 days to half a month. She encountered must be as Yun Chujio was complaining. It must be like light flashed before her eyes. Yun Chujio was not as relaxed as they were changed once again. She had not been able to rest for the past few days. Tianyuan Academy was regardless of whether it was her physical strength or her brain power. They had already reached their limits once again. However, the situation before her did not allow her to even have a moment to catch her breath. Their bodies were filled with killing intent. There was an incomparably scorching sun above Yun Chujio's head, and under her feet was an endless desert. Fortunately, no one dared to come any closer. Had the cool beads they only saw the two of them follow so she was not roasted into dried from afar. However, everyone could not help but discuss the 2 ghost-faced golden-backed centipedes at level 26. This is the first time I've seen young Master Wu Ji so curious to speak at all. That means level 26 was equivalent to get out of bed for a month. 4th level of the spiritual venerable realm of young Master Wu Ji here again. Yun Chujio was no match for them. They even went to the trial tower. Yun Chujio's only advantage was that she was not afraid of the venom they spat out. How is this possible? She barely managed to hold on for a short while. Your eminence might have come for Yun Chujio. After the 2 ghost-faced golden-backed centipedes realized that the venom was not quite easy to use. Young Master Wu Ji was very annoyed with Yun Chujio last time. The antennae of the ghost-faced golden-backed centipedes were harder than fine iron, emitting
for going
a
to the
faint
trial
blue
tower,
light.
not
It should
only
be
were they
because
sharp,
the dean
but
wants
they were
the two
also
of them to help
poisonous.
think of a way
Although
to save
Yun
Yunchujio
Chujio was agile, the
while
difference in her
everyone was
spiritual power
discussing,
was too
Teacher
big.
Mao,
One of
who
the
was guarding the
ghost-faced
trial tower,
golden-backed
was in
Centipede
trouble.
Santeni accidentally stabbed her
Shui
left leg,
Wuji
and
immediately
blood
scolded
immediately
Teacher
flowed
Mao.
out.
You
Yun
brainless
Chujio
idiot.
grimaced in
My little
pain
sister
and thought,
Gio said that if you want to enter the trial
I'm
tower,
afraid I won't
just
be
give
able
her
to
the
pass
jade
this
token.
test.
If you
Damn
give
it,
her the jade
I'm
token,
really unwilling
will she
to die
sneak
in the
in?
hands of such
If
an
anything
ugly
happens
bug.
to my little
If I
sister
had known
Gio,
this would
he'll
happen,
kill you.
I would have stayed in
Teacher
the vine
Mu was
forest.
dumbfounded
It
by
would have
the
been
scolding.
better if I had
Little
food and
ninth
drink.
sister?
Who was little ninth sister? However,
Yun Chujio?
this fellow was
How
only
did Yun
thinking about
Chujio
this.
become young Master
His hands were
Wuji's
not
sister.
idle, and
Dean
he even
Huang
let
Fu
Xiao
had already
Hanyo
activated
once.
the isolation
He
array,
inserted a
so the
few
onlookers
purple
from
needles
afar
into the
couldn't
left
see what
eye
was
of one of the
happening.
golden
He
backed
quickly helped
centipedes.
Teacher Mu out of
Damn
the
it,
situation.
even if I die.
Young Master
Don't
Wuji,
even think about
Teacher
having a
Mu
good time.
stopped Yun
The
Chujio from entering the trial
ghost-faced
tower for her
centipede
own
was
good.
injured. This
And it
is all my
became
fault.
even more ferocious.
I shouldn't have told Yun
One of its
Chujio about the
tentacles
trial
once
tower
again
at that
pierced
time.
Yun Chujio's right
Although
leg.
Shui Wuji
Yun
wished he could
Chujio's
scold
eyes
Dean
were bloodshot.
Huangfu,
He
she
still
was
had
going
the
all
respect
out.
he should have.
This fellow was
He could
really
only
ruthless.
say in a muffled voice,
He did not pull out
"Etchy."
his right leg.
He just looks down
Instead,
on my little
he used
sister
his
Gio.
right leg to
He even
restrain
said
the
that it's for her
ghost-faced
own
golden-backed centipede's tentacles, making it unable to move freely.
Chapter 1158.
A few more purple needles
The main
pierced
body
into
wants
the
to
right
enter the
eye
trial
of the
tower.
ghost-faced
Teacher Mao
golden-backed
lowered his
centipede
head
before
guiltily.
he pulled out his
Indeed,
right leg.
he had stopped
Yun
Yun Chujio
from
from
entering
entering
the
the
trial
pin and was
tower
about
because
to
he did
smash
not
the
think highly of
ghost-faced
her.
golden-backed centipede.
He felt that such
At
a good
this
for
moment,
nothing was
another
not qualified
ghost-faced
to enter the trial
golden-backed
tower,
centipede
so he
pounced on her.
deliberately made things
With a sweep
difficult
of its
for her.
tail,
It
sent
seemed
Teacher
Teacher
Mao's
Mao's
cowardly manner.
Yun
Shui
Chujio
Wuji
could
only
not
felt
help
that her
but get
ribs
angry.
were about to be broken.
Just as he was about
She
to
spat
retort
out a
him,
mouthful of blood.
Beiming
Before
said,
she fainted,
"Little Gio
Yun
may be
Chujio thought to
temperamental,
herself, but she's
damn
not
it,
someone
I still
who doesn't
need to
have
know her
strong
limits.
spiritual power.
I'm afraid she didn't
She was
sneak in
afraid
by
that
herself.
she would not be able to pass
When
this
Teacher
test
Mao
by
heard
relying on
Beiming
her
say the
words
word
and
little
intelligence.
Gio, he was even more shocked than when Shui Wuji said little Gio's sister. He felt that he must have a fever
Chapter
today.
1167.
Otherwise, Ben Chao
how could
was
everything
very
he
worried
saw
Yun
and heard be
Chujio
so
fell to the
abnormal?
ground.
Teacher
Fortunately,
Mao,
she was
tell
in the
your
desert,
excellency,
so
and
she would
young
not
Master
be hurt
Wuji
if she
about
fell.
the situation
However,
at that time.
this fellow
Dean
was
Huangfu
seriously
pinched
injured
Teacher
and had
Mao
fiercely
fiercely.
fainted.
How could
The
he still be in a
ghost-faced
daze at
golden-backed
such a time?
centipede crawled over
Although
fiercely.
the Tianyuan
Its
Academy
sharp
had a
antennae
special
flashed
status
with a cold light
if your
and was about to
excellency
stab
and young
Yun
Master
Chujio's
Wuji
chest.
were to vent their
At this
anger on
moment,
you,
the
you,
black
a
bead
mere
in Yun
teacher,
Chujio's
would be doomed.
dantian suddenly
Only
trembled.
then did Teacher
Yun
Mao come back
Chujio
to
woke
his
up from
senses
the
and
intense
recounted the
pain in her
situation at
dantian.
that time.
Seeing
Shui
the ghost
Wuji
faced
immediately
golden-backed
widened his eyes
centipede
and
coming
said,
towards
"You
her.
just saw
She
my little
hurriedly
sister
rolled on
Gio's
the
back,
ground.
and you're sure
Only
that she
then did she
sneaked in?
dodge the
You just
ghost-faced
blamed my
golden-backed
little sister Gio
centipede's
for it?
tentacles.
Maybe
The
someone dragged
ghost-faced
my little
golden-backed
sister Gio
centipede
in.
did not expect
Young Master
Yun Chujio
Wuji
to still be able to
students went in
move after
first.
suffering such
After
a
they went
serious
in,
injury.
they would be
It was shocked
transported
and
to the
stopped for a
trial
moment.
scene.
Yun
How could they
Chujio
drag
took
Yun
advantage
Chujio
of this
in?
gap and summoned
Shui
the
Wuji
5
glared
immortal
at Teacher
swords
Mu.
that she had not
No
used
matter
for a
what,
long
little
time.
sister Gio won't
She gritted
sneak
her
in.
teeth and
You
added
must think of
3
a way
more
to
immortal
clear
swords.
things up.
A
Otherwise,
total of
I
8
won't
immortal
forgive you.
swords attacked the
Teacher Mu
ghost-faced
was on the verge of
golden-backed
tears.
centipede's weak spot.
Young Master
The
Wuji,
ghost-faced
what do you want me to
golden-backed
say?
centipede was
Could it
shocked.
be that the trial
It had
tower
seen that a
sucked Yun
cultivator
Chujio
could
in?
only command
Hearing
2
Teacher
immortal
Mu's
swords
words,
at most.
Beiming's
Moreover,
heart skipped a beat.
they were small
Little
and
Gio's
exquisite double
constitution
swords.
was special.
How could this
Perhaps
little girl
she really
command
was brought
8
in
great
by the
swords
trial
at the
tower's
same time?
Chi-Ling.
Yun
Teacher
Chujio
Mao
commanded
give
the
me
8
a
immortal
token.
swords to
I
entangle
want to
the
enter the Tower of
ghost-faced
Trials.
golden-backed centipede.
Beiming
She
said
took
to
out
Teacher
a
Mao.
super-grade blood
Teacher Mao looked
coagulation
at Dean
pill and
Huangfu.
swallowed it.
Dean
With the
Huangfu
effect of
sighed
the
and
Guai
said,
Chao and
"Your
the pill,
Excellency,
Yun
you
Chujio's
also know that
injuries
after
were
a
soon
person
healed.
enters the Tower
In
of
just a
Trials,
short while,
they are
the 8
transported
immortal
to a scene
swords could
alone.
no longer
Even
stop
if you
the
enter,
ghost-faced
you will not be able
golden-backed
to find
centipede.
Yun Chujio.
The ghost-faced
If you pass the
golden-backed
9th level,
centipede
you will
slapped the
find
8
the
immortal
weapon
swords
spirit
away,
of the Tower
and
of
its sharp
Trials.
antennae
At
stabbed
that
towards
time,
Yun
I can
Chujio
force
again.
it to to release little Geo.
Yunchujio had no choice but to put away the immortal swords and attack the ghost-faced golden-backed centipede again with the purple needles. Filled with fear. However, Dean Huangfu was stunned. Golden-backed centipede was much smarter than the other one. To be able to do this for Yunchujio and did not give the purple needles any chance to attack. Although your spiritual power is considered was once again pierced by the ghost-faced golden-backed, it is extremely difficult to pass the 9th level. Yunchujio used the same trick again. What about the matters of the Temple of Immortals? Pain and used her body to delay the use of golden-backed centipedes. If there is an urgent matter, there is no way for us to inform directly at the ghost. When I was in the academy, I managed to clear the 6th level. Although the ghost-faced golden-backed centipede spiritual power was much lower than it is now. Part of the small purple I believe needles. That I can clear the 9th level this time. Small purple needles. There's no need to say more. Into its eyes. Give me the jade token. After Yunchujio broke away from the ghost-faced eyes, revealed a determined look. Centipede's tentacles. Little Geo, wait for me.
I will definitely be able to save you. Needles exploded, Teacher Mao and the ghost just about to pass the jade token to debiming when he saw the third level of the trial tower light up. Centipede went berserk. Teacher Mao exclaimed. Although its eyes were severely injured, to break it still pierced its other tentacle into Yun Chujia's chest. She is only at the first entire body was hung on one of the tentacles of the ghost-faced golden-backed centipede. Chapter 1159 might be a fortuitous let out a shrill cry, and the others also looked towards the trial tower, swallow Yun Chujio into its stomach. The third level of the trial eyes were red. Damn it, do you want to not help but exclaim, I will kill you even if I have to risk my life. Of the spirit Saint Realm can pass opened her second level of the trial tower. Golden-backed centipede and released several small purple needles. This is too unbelievable. Following the explosion originally wanted to insist on entering the trial tower, but when he saw this, he suddenly had a thought. Yun Chujio was also constantly thrown around to eat and drink without any worries. Became bigger and bigger. Moreover, the trial tower was not really dead. She was really going to die this time. This might be little Nine's although it was not true encounter. The feeling was really unpleasant. Before deciding whether to enter the tower of trials. Golden-backed centipede stopped moving. I've changed my mind. Its body disappeared, in front of this tower. That were inserted into Yun Chujia's body deciding whether to enter the tower. However, the wound was still naturally there, and Yun Chujio passed out. If Biming didn't come out for a while after entering, the Hall Master's wife would have to run over to him and ask for him. She actually used her own body to balance the stinky centipede. Biming is waiting here, in the past, then I will wait here too. She wanted to cut open its abdomen to kill it. It's the same wherever I cultivate. She was just trying to scare it. It's just that those idiots are getting annoyed just by looking at me. In the future, to get lost when it and she could not coexist, the corner might really destroy both jade and stone. He did not need to give any orders. Was very worried. They saw the kick that you gave In Sulian. If they came, they probably would not dare to come close. Chapter 1168 When Dean Huangfu thought of this, he removed the isolation array. The wounds on watching from afar saw that His Excellency and young Master Wuji were sitting her dantian in the empty space in front of the trial tower. Felt the sharp pain in her dantian and opened her eyes. What's going on? She looked at the blood stains on her clothes and could not help but to the trial tower to meditate. It seemed that she was not dead. Did they have a sudden epiphany? If she was resurrected, how is that possible? Would be the same as if when she first came in. It seemed that with her physique, for them to have an epiphany together. For her to die even if she wanted to. Could it be that they are waiting for Yun Chujio to come out of the trial tower? A fishy smell came over. Your joke is not funny at all. It turned out that another ghost talk about your excellency and young Master Wuji's identity. Smell and why would they wait for a puny Yun Chujio? Narrowed her eyes. Most importantly, she had suffered a lot from these two smelly centipedes today. It was a good opportunity to vent her anger with this blind eye. At this moment, a student exclaimed, thought of this. The corners of her mouth curled into a nasty smile. Could it be that she took out a bag of things from her storage ring and everyone's attention was on Biming and Shui Wuji just now? The ghost-faced only then did they realize that the third level of the trial tower used its antennae to block. How was this possible? The bag of things instantly exploded, and almost all the red powder inside fell on the ghost-faced. She was lucky enough to get to the second centipede's body. But how did she manage to get to the third level? The golden-backed centipede immediately rolled on the ground in pain. Just when everyone was surprised that Yun Chujio managed to get to the third level from the explosion. The fourth level actually lit up. Sprinkled everyone the bag of chili noodles on it, and the sour taste was simply fatal. This was impossible. Yun Chujio naturally would not let go of such a great opportunity. The third level only lit up for an hour at most. And the others to continuously clear the third level in such a short time. And she also kept shooting purple needles. Teacher Mao jumped up in shock. Although the ghost-faced golden-backed centipede was very powerful, it could not actually use anything due to the injuries in its third level of the trial tower. In addition, Yun Chujio had a lot of bad ideas. Shui Wuji glared fiercely at Teacher Mao and said in a low voice, "Centipede was on the verge of death. Is much more powerful than you think. Was about to burn it to death again." Teacher Mu was immediately dispirited and did not say a word. Take turns to keep an eye on it. At the trial tower, if its injuries improve, burn it for me. This Yun Chujio was really unexpected. Take this opportunity to rest for 2 days. To break through to the fourth level of the spirit sex fourth level, and it only took her an hour to break through to the third level. Although the ghost-faced golden-backed centipede could spray venom, it only needed to stay out of its attack range. Yun Chujio took out an all-purpose tent from her storage ring. The third level of the Tower of Trials, Dean Huangfu she had not rested for a moment these past few days. He must have gone mad. She was physically and mentally exhausted. Had broken through to the fourth level. Slept for 2 days and 2 nights. When she woke up, spirit she ate a cultivator had broken through to the 9th level of the Tower of Trials to burn the ghost-faced golden-backed centipede. It was better to place their hopes on the honorable one to death. Then, Why did Yun Chujio only use an hour to pass the trial tower? Level of the
Teacher
Tower
Mao
of Trials
had been staring at
an
the
hour
changes
ago,
in the trial
tower. When he saw the 7th level
when
light
Yun
up,
Chujio
he was
opened
so
her eyes
excited that
she
he couldn't
realized
speak.
that she had been
He could only
transported to a
point at the
dense
trial
forest.
tower with a
Yun
trembling
Chujio
finger
looked
to
around,
signal for
but she did
everyone to
not
take a
find
look.
any traces
Everyone,
of demonic
including
beasts.
Dean Huangfu,
This was strange.
felt that they must
Could
have
the
had a
demonic
very
beasts
long
be
dream.
outside the dense
Yun
forest?
Chujio had actually
Just
reached
as
the
Yun
7th
Chujio
level.
was at a loss.
Heavens,
the
it had
vines
been
on the
thousands
ground
of
and on the
years
trees
since anyone had
burst
reached
out.
the 7th level.
The speed was so
How did Yun
fast that
Chujio
Yun
do it?
Chujio did not
Some
have
people's
time to
thoughts
react.
were completely
She
different
was
from
immediately
before.
bound tightly.
Back then, they
Yun
had thought that
Chujio
Yun
was shocked.
Chujio had
Just as she
overestimated
was about
herself
to
by
release
sneaking
Li
into the
Yan
trial
and burn
tower,
down the vines,
and that she was
she was
sending herself
horrified
to
to
her death.
find that her spiritual
But now
power
their
was
thoughts
actually
were
restricted.
No wonder Yun
Moreover,
Chujio
she
had
could not
snuck in.
use her spiritual
It turned out
sense
that she
and
was
spiritual
confident.
beast bag at
She
all.
was truly
The
bold
vines
with her
danced
skills.
crazily and
However,
let out sharp
most people
laughter.
were still
The
pessimistic.
vines on Yun
Although
Chujio's
Yun
body became
Chujio had
tighter
reached the
and
7th
tighter.
level,
Moreover,
it was definitely
the
more
thorns on the
difficult to
vines
start
began
from the
to
7th
pierce
level.
into Yun
Yun
Chujio's
Chujio
exposed
could probably
hands.
only stay
Demon
at the
plants?
7th level.
There were vines everywhere in this dense forest. It was simply impossible to guard against
Chapter
them.
1169
However,
Good
why did this
Mother-in-Law
scene
of
look a little
Tianyuan
familiar?
Trial Tower,
All right,
7th floor.
this was the scene
Yun
when she was
Chujio was
absorbing the
now
spirit
on an
of the
icy
spirit
plane.
vines.
The environment
It was
here
just
was
that
much
the
worse than the
spirit-absorbing vines
unexpected
were
icy
not as
plane.
high level as
Not
these
only
demon
was the
plants.
temperature lower,
Damn it. But there were also
at that
hurricanes
time,
that blew
when she had
occasionally.
absorbed all the
This
poison from the
hurricane was
vines,
not a
the
regular
vines had
hurricane,
become
but a
obedient.
wind blade.
She did not know
In
if
such
this
an
trick would
environment,
work on these
not
demon
to
plants.
mention whether a person
Forget
would freeze
it, let's
to
try
death.
again.
Just the wind
Since she was
blades
thirsty,
alone would cut a
she
person
would just
into
drink it
pieces
like
in
water.
less than 15
Anyway,
minutes.
the poison would not kill her.
There's really no
Yun
way to
Chujio
survive.
thought of this and
If I
lowered her
had
head
known
to
this
bite
would
down
happen,
on a vine.
I would have let
Then
that
she
stinky
began to
centipede
suck the
live
juice
forever.
inside.
The
Yun
Guan Chao
Chujio
in her
cursed as she
dantian
used
used
the
the rolling
rolling
pin to block
This
the wind
thing was
blades.
much more advanced
However,
than
this
sucking
was
the juice
not a
of the
long-term
spirit vine.
solution. The vine
Once
let
her
out
spiritual
a
power
contemptuous
was
laugh.
exhausted,
This
she could
human
only
girl
be cut
was
into
really
pieces
stupid.
by the wind blades.
Its juice was extremely
Moreover,
poisonous.
there were no demonic
She was
beasts
simply
here,
courting
so she
death.
did not know how to
As
pass
long as
through
you
this
took
layer.
a sip,
If
you
she
would
could
be
not
dead.
think of a way quickly,
then
she would be executed
sips,
countless
10
times.
sips. If that
The
was the
vine
case,
found
it
that
would
the
be
little
too
girl was
tragic.
completely fine.
Yun Chujio's
However,
spiritual
the
power
venom
was
in her
gradually
body was
exhausted,
constantly
and the
leaking
speed
out.
of the rolling
The
pin
branch of
was
the vine
slightly
that was
slower.
binding the little
It was
girl
cut
had
by a
already
wind
begun
blade
to
on her
wither.
left shoulder, and the
How
pain
could this
made
be?
Yun Chujio grimace.
This was impossible.
Damn it. If
Why
only there
wasn't
was
she
a strong
poisoned to
enough
death?
wall, then I
Yun
could hide
Chujio
behind
did not
it.
care what the vine
Thinking
was
of
thinking.
this,
She
Yun
continued
Chujio
to
gritted
suck
her
the
venom
teeth
from
and
the
kept
vine.
searching in her storage ring with her
Damn it.
spiritual
Do you
sense,
think I'm a sick
hoping to
cat
find
if I
something
don't
that
show
could
my
block
strength?
the wind blade?
You want to
She
kill
first
me?
took out a
They'll
lot of
suck
big
you
rocks,
into a dried
but
vine
unfortunately,
first.
the
These
vine
big
was
rocks
miserable.
that were originally
After
hard
Yun
were cut
Chujio
into powder
finished
in just
sucking
a
the
few
vine
seconds.
that was binding her.
However,
She found the
no matter
thickest
what,
trunk
a
and
few
started
dozen
to suck
seconds
the
was
poison
very
from it.
precious to
The
Yun
vine
Chujio
was
now.
not willing to sit
At least
still
she
and
could
wait
catch
for
her
death.
breath. It
She
kept
kept
beating
throwing
Yun
out the
Chujio
things
with
that she
the
thought
vine.
were hard in her
Yun
storage
Chujio
ring,
was determined.
blocking it for a while.
No matter how you
In
beat
fact,
her,
she
I will
still
not
had a
let
lot
go.
of spirit tools
I
in
will
her
suck you
storage
into
ring,
a dried
both
vine today.
offensive and defensive.
Finally, the
However,
main trunk
this
of the
guy
vine
was
began
prepared
to
to
wither.
save these good
Yun
things for
Chujio
last.
curled her lips
It was
and
obvious
let
that the weapon
spirit
spirit
of the
Li
trial
Yan
tower
burn the
was
main
not
trunk of the
easy to
vine.
deal with. Even in her dreams,
She had to save some
the vine
trump
did
cards.
not expect to
While
die
Yun
so
Chujio was
aggrieved
busy
one day.
making things.
As the
She
main
suddenly
trunk of the
realized
vine
a
burned
problem.
to ashes,
These
a
wind
white
blades were
light
all
flashed
parallel.
in front of Yun
If she could
Chujio's
make a
eyes.
hole in the ice field,
When she saw the scene in front
would
of
she
her,
be able to
she
avoid the
regretted
attack
sucking
of these
the
wind
poison
blades?
of the vine
Yun
slowly.
Chujio immediately became excited when she thought of this.
She
Chapter
used the various
1161.
things in her
Come and
storage
eat me,
ring as a
fuck.
barrier.
She was
Then
absolutely
she
certain
brought
that this
Xiao Hei out.
damned trial
Mickey
tower's
Mouse
Qi
dig a
Ling
hole.
wanted to kill her.
Quickly dig a hole.
If she was
I want to
teleported
see
to
if
this
the
place,
wind blade will
she
not
might as
blow
well
into
just
the
kill
hole.
her.
At
Xiao
this
Hei
moment,
knew that the
Yun
situation
Chujio
was
was
urgent,
pitifully
so it
lying in a
immediately
pit that was
used
about
its
20
claws to
feet
dig a
deep.
hole. There were 3 level 25 bloodthirsty wolves surrounding her. Although the 10,000-year-old ice field was greedily in the pit, it was not difficult for Xiaohei to dig a hole. Let out horrifying howls. A hole about a foot deep was dug. Their eyes were full of green light, and their saliva dripped and began to observe. No matter how Yun Chujio thought about it, she felt that she had no way to survive. She could not help but be overjoyed and quickly let Xiaohei continue to dig the hole. They were afraid that their food would be cut into pieces, only used 15 so they didn't use to dig a deep hole that could cover Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio would have died long ago. Could not wait to jump into the hole and activate the defensive were equivalent to human cultivators from after waiting for a long time and seeing that the wind blades did not blow in. The gap between Yun Chujio and them was almost like a gully. He let Xiaohei continue to dig the deep hole and spread the snow cashmere blanket that belonged to the palace master's wife inside. Yun Chujio quickly adjusted her state of mind. The snow cashmere blanket kept her extremely warm.
strong? Yun Chujio wrapped herself tightly and sighed in her heart. Wasn't I still alive? Which was really a good mother-in-law. The three little wolves wanted to take her life. This snow cashmere blanket had really helped her a lot. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and started to think of a countermeasure. This pit was not deep. Chapter 1170, as long as one bloodthirsty wolf jumped later, it would be easy to finally manage to catch her breath. Why did the three bloodthirsty wolves come back to surround the pit and not eat her? She didn't need to worry about the wind blades for the time being. It was probably because there were no demonic beasts were wary of each other. How could she pass it? If one of them jumped down, the other two would most likely hit it while it was down and attack it with wind blades. She decided to start meditating and cultivating. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes, there was still a lot of thunder spiritual energy in her dantian. She had an idea, which was enough for her to use for a period of time. Waved her claws at from that day on, Yun Chujio would only eat and sleep and cultivate. I'm really lucky to be able to meet you. She would run to the ground to check the situation, and when she couldn't hold it anymore, was this little girl crazy? Back into the pit. Didn't she know that she would be eaten by them? Yun Chujio found something strange. And she even greeted them with a smile. These wind blades didn't always blow. You must be very strange. Sometimes they would stop. Why am I so happy? At night, they would because rest I feel that it is my honor to die. These in wind the blades came from the noble demon beast. Yun Chujio decided to go to the south to see what the source of these wind blades was. Yun Chujio closed her eyes. Yun Chujio rested up during the day and started to travel at night. The three bloodthirsty wolves, when the sun looked at each other warily, she asked Xiaohei to dig a hole again. Drooling over the prey in the pit, the hole this time was much simpler, becoming the other two prey. It was just enough for Yun Chujio to sit inside. Opened her eyes. Then she continued to travel at night, my lords, repeating the cycle. Why aren't you eating me? As the journey progressed, my skin is tender and my meat is very delicious. Became stronger. I guarantee it was obvious that they were getting closer to the source of the wind blades. The three bloodthirsty wolves 2 days later, but take half a step back. Finally found the source of the wind blades. It was a demon beast that she had never seen before. To ask to be eaten. It was extremely huge, I know, like a snow mountain. Do you think it's inconvenient to eat covered with snow-white fur? The wind blades were so that you can easily eat its huge nostrils. The three bloodthirsty wolves were delighted. The wind blades stopped. It would be easy if this human girl climbed up. What kind of demon beast was this? They did not have to be wary of each other. She had never seen the relevant records. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, this was too scary. She made a move to climb up. This was completely a moving, killing machine. She returned to the bottom of the pit. Rid of this big monster in order to pass this level. Three wolves. I suddenly thought of a very big problem. If the monster breathed at her, if I climb up now, how could she of you going to share it? No wonder no one had discussed how to share it with me in thousands of years. For example, it was too damn difficult. Can eat more. The big monster seemed to have discovered Yun Chujio as well. However, to it, Yun Chujio was like a human looking at a small ant. It was too lazy to kill her. Yun Chujio was extremely glad that the big monster was lazy enough. Otherwise, she would really die. This guy did not dare to get too close to the monster. He hid in the cave from afar and tried to think of a way to kill the big monster. He definitely could not do it during the day. He could only look at the situation at night. As the sun set, night fell. At midnight, Yun Chujio secretly poked her head out of the cave. As usual, the wind blade stopped. Under the moonlight, the figure of the big monster was exceptionally clear. Yun Chujio then realized that the wind blades did not stop completely. However, when the big monster was sleeping, the wind blades did not become so strong, it could not blow so far away, but there were still wind blades coming out of the big monster's nostrils, forming a defense in front of the big monster. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. The wind blades came from the nostrils. In other words, there would definitely be no wind blades behind the big monster. It would be great if she could go behind it. However, the big monster's back was against a huge snow mountain. How could it go behind it? Yun Chujio's eyes suddenly lit up. From that night onwards, Xiaohei began its hard work of digging holes. In order to prevent being discovered by the big monster, Xiaohei had to dig deep enough. Moreover, it could only dig at night when the big monster fell asleep. Chapter 1171 The Secret of the Monster. After 10 days of hard work, Xiaohei finally dug the hole into the snow mountain behind the big monster. Not only that, Xiaohei also dug a lot of air vents and detours on the snow mountain to avoid being suffocated to death. Xiaohei felt that ever since she followed this black-hearted master, she had not found her treasure, but her digging skills had become more skillful. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth and decided to make her move. At worst, she would just die once. In any case, she could be revived. Although she did not know what this big monster was, no matter what kind of demonic beast it was,
Its ears, eyes, and rear orifices were the most vulnerable areas. As long as she could get enough small purple needles, she was not afraid that she would not be able to kill it. Thus, on a dark night for a month, Yun Chujio made her move. Because the small purple needles were too small, when they entered the monster's body, the monster didn't notice them at all. Yun Chujio kept waving her hands, and when she felt that there were enough small purple needles, only then did she shout, "Explode," in her mind, and then quickly retreated back into the tunnel, in case she was killed by the big monster. The big monster was sleeping soundly when it was suddenly woken up by a sharp pain. Its head and buttocks were blasted to the point that blood was dripping. The monster was instantly enraged. It kept roaring and hitting the ground. Countless wind blades shot out from its nostrils. The entire ice field seemed to be trembling. The snow mountain behind the big monster also began to avalanche. Yun Chujio hid in the tunnel. She could not help but feel a little pity when she heard the angry roars outside. It seemed that the big monster's body was very strong. It actually did not do anything. She could only look for another opportunity. Although the snow mountain had an avalanche, Xiaohei had dug out a lot of air holes, so Yun Chujio was still safe in the tunnel. The big monster had obviously suspected Yun Chujio at the first moment. It shook its huge body and directly stepped on the hole that Yun Chujio was originally hiding in. It collapsed and kept shooting wind blades at that place. It thought that Yun Chujio was dead, so it returned to the side of the snow mountain and rested on it. Yun Chujio didn't dare to do anything else. It was only 2 days later that the monster secretly took action again. The monster had figured it out. The big monster's weakness was probably not its back and ears but its nostrils. Otherwise, how could it shoot wind blades from its nose? There must be something hidden in it. However, the wind blades kept coming out of its nostrils. It had to take the opportunity to put the small purple needle into the monster's nose when it exhaled. That would be risky. That was because the monster's nose was facing forward when it slept, and the small purple needle could not turn, so it had to shoot the small purple needle near the monster's nose and eyes. Yun Chujio pondered for a while and came up with a solution. She made the rolling pin longer, and the Xiaohei rat pushed itself along the rolling pin until it reached the top of the monster's face. She took the opportunity to shoot the purple needle into the monster's nose. Xiaohei rat was very strong, so it was not a problem to hold the rolling pin. The key was to climb above the monster. The risk was too great, and it might be eaten by the monster. However, there was no good way now, so she could only take the risk and try. In the middle of the night, the rolling pin stretched out from the hole, becoming longer and longer until it reached the top of the monster's head. Yun Chujio took off the hidden spirit ring on her hand, and now there was no spiritual energy fluctuation on her body. Then, she quietly climbed forward along the rolling pin. Suddenly, the monster opened its mouth. Chapter 1172 was the right bet. Yun Chujio was so scared that her heart stopped beating. Fortunately, the monster closed its mouth again. It must have been dreaming. Yun Chujio held her breath and continued to climb forward. She first shot a few purple needles into the monster's ears and eyes, then climbed to the top of its nose. After a round of wind blades, Yun Chujio quickly bent down. She waved her hands non-stop, and a few purple needles shot into the monster's nostrils. Yun Chujio was afraid that the monster would spit out the purple needles when it exhaled again. She did not care about exposing herself, and hurriedly ordered the purple needles to explode, and then let Xiaohei drag it in by itself. The intense pain in the nostrils woke the monster up immediately, and its huge body rolled on the ground in pain. Yun Chujio was right this time. The only weakness of this monster was its nostrils. Its demon core was different from other demon beasts. It was actually at the bottom of its nostrils. Yun Chujio's purple needles directly exploded the demon core of the monster. The monster's huge body kept rolling on the ground. A large part of the huge snow mountain had been knocked down by it. Finally, it stopped moving on the ground and the entire ice field returned to its calm state. Qi Ling, who was on the 9th level of the Tower of Trials, was so shocked that she could not close her mouth. She originally thought that this little weakling would be trapped in this Tower of Trials forever. However, she had actually coaxed and tricked her way through the 6th level, so it was fine. How could she have defeated the Snow Wind Beast on the 7th level so easily? This Snow Wind Beast was a level 28 demonic beast. In the entire Tianyuan continent, the number of people who could defeat it could be counted with one's fingers. Yun Chujio, a trash at the 1st level of the spirit sect, had actually killed it? She used a few small purple needles to kill a level 28 demonic beast. How is this possible? No wonder the heavenly lightning could not kill her. This little girl was really strange. She was just lucky. She happened to attack the Snow Wind Beast's weak point. Otherwise, even if she died 10,000 times, she wouldn't be able to kill the Snow Wind Beast. Darn girl, there are still 2 more floors. I don't believe that you have such good luck. This time, you only accidentally found the Snow Wind Beast's weak point. You are destined to die in the trial tower. Darn girl, the heavenly Tao doesn't allow it. Watch how I will deal with you. At this moment, Yun Chujio had already been transported to the 8th level of the trial tower. Unlike the dangers of the first 7 levels, this place was actually a vast grassland that shone with spring light. The endless green grass and wildflowers were a beautiful scenery no matter how one looked at it. Yun Chujio did not dare to be careless in her heart. The more such a scene appeared, the more dangerous it was. The trial tower's Qi Ling was very cunning. He might not be planning something bad again. Fuck, don't let me catch you. Otherwise, I'll kill you. A certain Qi Ling sneezed and had a sinister smile on his face. Darn girl, you must be scolding me. I'll let you enjoy it for a while. Soon you'll know how powerful this Qi Ling is. Yun Chujio walked south for a while and found that the grassland was endless. Moreover, there was not a single demon beast. It was really strange. What exactly was the Qi Ling planning? Yun Chujio thought for a while but still could not figure it out. She decided to cross her legs and start cultivating. It was rare to have such a comfortable environment. It was not bad to be able to improve her spiritual power. There was nothing unusual during the whole day. It was as if Yun Chujio had arrived at a paradise. Yun Chujio sneered in her heart. She was afraid that her ultimate move would be left at night. She wanted to take advantage of the dark moon and the high wind to do something. She wanted to plot against me? Dream on. Chapter 1173. The white bone puppet Yun Chujio had the 3 silly beasts keep an eye on her. She took the opportunity to take a nap before the sun went down. She must have a tough battle to fight at night, so she had to reserve some strength first. After the sun went down, the entire grassland became pitch black. The sky was covered by dark clouds, and there was no moonlight or starlight at all. Wu Yun and Yun Chujio looked at each other. Yun Chujio pursed her lips and took out a large necklace from her storage ring. There were 3 luminous pearls on it, and instantly, the area within a few miles was illuminated by the light. Yun Chujio felt a chill run down her spine when she saw the scene in front of her. This was no longer the grassland that was full of vitality during the day. This was a freaking boneyard. The ground was filled with white bones. There were demonic beasts and humans. They were emitting a faint blue light. Those who were timid would have fainted immediately. Fortunately, Yun Chujio was a daring person. She bowed to the white bones. Everyone, please forgive me. Please forgive me. I was completely tricked into this place by the trial tower's Qi Ling. I didn't mean to offend you. I believe that all of you were tricked to death by this damn Qi Ling. I will burn some paper money for all of you. Recite the incantation of rebirth and rest in peace. Yun Chujio did not have any paper money. She took out a few pieces of xian paper and tore them up before throwing them on the ground. While Yun Chujio was mumbling about ferrying the souls of the dead, the white bones on the ground suddenly flew up. Yun Chujio widened her eyes and watched as the broken bones reassembled into countless human and demon beast skeletons. They pounced on her. Io! You can't repay kindness with enmity. I was kind enough to ferrying you, but you still want to kill me to be your companion? Let me tell you, I'm a black-hearted person. Even my bones are black. I'm not like you guys, I'm not a beast, and I'm definitely not a skeleton. Although Yun Chujio was shouting, her brain was working fast. This was a plain, there was no way for her to escape. Moreover, these white bone puppets did not have intelligence, so she could only fight them head-on. Yun Chujio fired several bolts of lightning at one of the skeletal puppets. When the lightning struck the white bones, other than leaving a charred black mark, it did not have much effect. On the contrary, this strike made the skeletal puppet charge at Yun Chujio even faster. Yun Chujio had no choice but to shoot out a few more purple needles. After the explosion, although the skeletal puppet's movements were slightly slowed down, it was not very effective. What was worse was that thousands of puppets had already surrounded Yun Chujio from all directions. Despite being in such a critical situation, Yun Chujio's mind was still relatively calm. How did these white bone puppets kill their prey? This fellow took out a demon beast corpse from his storage ring and threw it at the white bone puppet. Immediately, several white bone puppets surrounded the demon beast. Then, the faint blue light on the bodies of the white bone puppets gathered on the demon beast corpse. In an instant, the demon beast turned into white bones. What was even more terrifying was that the white bones turned into a new white bone puppet. This was just like a zombie. A person who was bitten would also turn into a zombie. It was too scary. Zombies were afraid of donkey hoofs and glutinous rice. Were these white bone puppets afraid? Although Yun Chujio did not have donkey hoofs in her storage ring, she did have glutinous rice. She took out a basin and threw it at the white bone puppets. It was useless. It was over. She did not expect to pass through the 7th floor. This time, she would die at the hands of these white bone puppets. Chapter 1174. The Damned Guai Chao. At this moment, Yun Chujio was surrounded by thousands of skeletal puppets. She had activated her spiritual energy shield so that she would not be corroded into white bones by the faint blue light. However, her spiritual energy was limited and she could not last for long. What should she do? Should she use those defensive spiritual weapons? However, that was only a temporary solution. When the defensive spiritual weapons were exhausted, she would still have to die. She had to find the weak point of these white bone puppets. However, she had never read any records about them before. They were all made of white bones and did not have any weaknesses like demon beasts. How could she kill them? Originally, these were scattered bones. Something must have gathered these scattered bones back into the shape of a human or a beast. If that thing was destroyed, the white bone puppets would naturally be no threat. But what was this thing? Could it be the faint blue light on the white bone? But where did that faint blue light come from? Yun Chujio felt that she had entered a dead end. Her head hurt from thinking, but she could not think of a solution. At this time, the spiritual energy barrier had been corroded countless layers. At most, in 15 minutes, the spiritual energy barrier would be broken through. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. It seemed that she could only use the defensive spiritual tool first. No matter what, she had to hold on until dawn. Then, she would have an entire day to think of a solution. Just as Yun Chujio was about to use the defensive spiritual tool, she felt a slight pain in her dantian. Yun Chujio looked inside her dantian and found a strange grass swaying in the air. It was Guai Chao. Although the Guai Chao could not speak, Yun Chujio could roughly guess what it meant. You mean you want me to open the spiritual energy shield? Do you have a way to deal with these skeletal puppets? Yun Chujio asked in disbelief. The Guai Chao was swaying in the air. Yun Chujio was so angry that she wanted to die. Damn it, Go Wei Ba. If you have a way to deal with it, you should have told me earlier. I was so worried that my hair turned white. However, she still had to use the Guai Chao to do her work. Although Yun Chujio wanted to strangle the Guai Chao to death. However, she still pretended to be pleasantly surprised and said, "Really? I knew that you are not an ordinary grass. Any immortal grass is not even 1,000th of yours. I just need to remove the spiritual energy shield?" The Guai Chao was dizzy from Yun Chujio's praise. Its leaves were slightly curled up. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart when she saw it and even played a little shyness with it. You better get rid of these skeleton puppets. Otherwise, I will teach you a lesson. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth and removed the spiritual energy barrier. Then, she focused all her attention on Guai Chao's attack. However, after a long while, until the skeletal puppets pounced on her, the damn Guai Chao did not move at all. The faint blue light on the skeletal body began to gather on Yun Chujio's body. Yun Chujio really wanted to chop the dog's tail into pieces and feed it to the pigs. This time, she could be considered to have been tricked to death by it. When she comes back to life, I will definitely curse it to death. Qi Ling, who was lying on the 9th level of the Tower of Trials, was jumping and jumping with joy. This smelly girl was finally going to die. In the past, all the people who came to challenge the trial had died hundreds of times. This girl's spiritual power was so low, yet she managed to reach the 8th level by relying on her dog shit luck. This was simply a slap to my face. Haha, in just a few dozen breaths, this smelly girl will turn into a skeleton. Then, I will let her be resurrected to a few dozen breaths ago, and then become a skeleton again, letting her continuously enjoy the taste of death. TSK, this Qi Ling is really too mischievous. Chapter 1175 dispelled the deathly stillness just as the artifact spirit was showing off. It suddenly stopped showing off, because it realized that bone puppets were beginning to fall apart. More and more bone puppets began to turn back into white bones, and the expression of the smelly girl lying on the ground changed from the initial anger to a beaming smile. Impossible! The faint blue light on these white bones was deathly stillness. How could it suddenly disappear? The aura of death was the negative emotion of those who failed the test. It had spent a lot of effort to collect it. If it was all gone, wouldn't it be a great loss? Could it be that there was a problem with the formation? The weapon spirit quickly checked the formation. When it found that there was nothing wrong with the formation, more than half of the white bone puppet had disappeared. It was so angry that it gritted its teeth. If there was nothing wrong with the formation, it must be the work of that bitch Yun Chujio. Could it be that the deathly aura had been dissolved by her? That was even more impossible. This was simply the biggest joke in the world. Perhaps the deathly aura could be resolved through positive emotions, but with so much deathly aura, even 10,000 Yun Chujio could not resolve it. However, what exactly was the problem? When the weapon spirit saw that the skeletal puppet was still decreasing, it was so angry that it was twitching. If this continued, the deathly aura that it had worked so hard to accumulate would be destroyed by Yun Chujio, this wretched girl. It could only let her pass. At this moment, Yun Chujio was happily lying on the ground. It turned out that Guai Chao's method was to absorb the blue light into her body. It seemed that she had wronged Go Weiba. Damned weapon spirit, you want to kill me? I will destroy all of your skeletal puppets. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking happily, a white light flashed in front of her eyes. The scene in front of her had already changed. Outside the trial tower, it could no longer be described as a frying pan. All the onlookers were dumbfounded. A month ago, if someone said that Yun Chujio could break through to the 9th level of the trial tower, they would definitely be scolded for having a problem with their brains. But at this moment, a terrifying thing actually happened in front of their eyes. Yun Chujio actually broke through to the 9th level of the trial tower. And it had only taken less than a month. Most importantly, Yun Chujio's cultivation was only at the 1st level of the spirit sect. Teacher Mao was extremely excited. If Yun Chujio was able to break through to the 9th level, their esteemed self would definitely not pursue his negligence. Moreover, he might even be rewarded for his misfortune. Even if he could not obtain any benefits, he would still be able to die without regrets if he were to see someone break through to the 9th level of the trial tower in his lifetime. Deputy Dean In's injuries had long healed. He had been gloating that Yun Chujio was dead for sure, but he never expected that Yun Chujio had actually passed the 9th level of the trial tower. Although he consoled himself that passing the 9th level did not mean anything. After all, he could only come out after passing the 9th level, but his heart was inexplicably uneasy. A strong premonition filled his mind. It was very likely that Yun Chujio managed to get to the 9th level. Deputy Dean In gritted his teeth. So what if she managed to get to the 9th level? This Yun Chujio must have gotten lucky. Because her spiritual power was too low, the level she encountered must be different from others. Even if she managed to get to the 9th level, it wouldn't mean anything. Yin Xinlian clenched her fists tightly in the crowd. How was this possible? How could Yun Chujio, that trash, make it to the 9th level? It must be the weapon spirit of the trial tower that was playing tricks on her. Yes, it must be so. She would definitely be trapped on the 9th level. Qi Ling thought to himself. Chapter 1176, Yun Qi Trial Tower, 9th level. When Yun Chujio regained her sight, she realized that the environment she was in this time was even more pleasant. There were exotic flowers and plants everywhere, and there were also many fruit trees. They were filled with ripe spirit fruits that emitted a strange fragrance. This fellow did not stand on ceremony. He picked a few of them and began to chew on them. In any case, he could not poison her to death. Needless to say, the taste of these spirit fruits was really not bad. Yun Chujio, this fellow, never knew what it meant to be reserved. She began to stuff them into her storage ring. Perhaps these spirit fruits were not formed by the formation. How about she dig the tree away as well? Thinking of this, Yun Chujio took out her pickaxe and began to dig the tree. Qi Ling, who was hiding somewhere, was about to go crazy from anger. Those spirit fruit trees were real. However, it did not dare to go out, afraid that Yun Chujio would catch it. Without the protection of the array formation, Qi Ling was very weak and was no match for humans and demonic beasts. Yun Chujio dug a few spirit fruit trees and kept them in her storage ring. She continued to walk forward. There were pavilions and pavilions here, just like a back garden. However, other than plants, there was no other living thing. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. She did not know what kind of test this damn Qi Ling had set for her. It was probably not a simple test. Yun Chujio took a few more steps forward and suddenly saw a woman walking towards her. Yun Chujio stood stiffly on the spot. Yun Chujio's eyes welled up with tears. She knew that this was probably an illusion set up by the Qi Ling, but she still could not help but walk towards the woman. The woman's face was cold, and the corners of her eyes and brows were ice cold. When she saw Yun Chujio, she raised her eyebrows. "Beggar, you're still alive? It seems like you're living quite well. Indeed, if you're thick-skinned, you can do well anywhere. Dear Chi, long time no see. Can't you say something nice? Let me tell you, everything here is different from our place. It's extremely fun. For example, this storage ring can store many, many things," Yun Chujio said as she held the woman's arm. "Get lost." Although the woman snorted in disdain, she still did not break free from Yun Chujio's arm. Moreover, her eyes became gentler. Yun Chujio held the woman's arm and went to a pavilion. After the two of them sat down, Yun Chujio was like a child. She began to show the woman the things in the storage ring and all kinds of spiritual attacks. Chi, don't think that my purple needles are unremarkable, but look, after I give the order, they will explode. Isn't it similar to dynamite? But this thing is much more environmentally friendly than dynamite. If I had this ability in the past, I wouldn't have let you help me block so many dangers. I wouldn't have let you, Yun Chujio said until here, she couldn't continue. She lay on the table and cried out loud. Yun Qi, the cold-looking woman, said indifferently, "You're just a stinking bag. So what if you have more scars on your body?" Yun Chujio wiped her tears. "You know that's not what I'm talking about. If you hadn't helped me time and time again, Yun Ling wouldn't have had a grudge against you. You wouldn't have become as cold as you are now." Yun Qi's expression changed slightly at the mention of Yun Ling, however, she returned to her cold expression in an instant. "Little Jiu, even if I didn't help you, he would have separated from me because a person like him only has ambition in his heart. I'm not suitable for him." Chapter 1177 Brother Wu Ji is suitable for you. Yun Chujio wiped away her tears. "I don't care. In my opinion, it's because you helped me that you had a disagreement with him. Now that you've come to the Tianyuan continent, it'll definitely help you find a good husband." Chi, what type of handsome man do you like? There are groups of handsome men around me now. There's Brother Wu Ji who is devilishly charming, Brother Feng Ming who is bright and handsome, and Brother Geng Yi who is straightforward. Oh right, there's also Brother Mermaid. I'm telling you, Brother Mermaid is actually a mermaid. His deep blue eyes are like sapphires, and when he laughs, hell turn into a human. Hee, which one do you like? Yun Qi was still expressionless, but the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. It was obvious that she was in a good mood. Seeing this, Yun Chujio tried even harder to introduce her. Chi, I think that my brother Black Rooster is the most suitable for you. You have a cold personality. Although my brother Wu Ji occasionally suffers from some idiotic diseases, he is very good at making girls happy. Moreover, he is the kind of person who spoils his girlfriend. With your cold personality, you should find a middle-aged man who is as passionate as fire. Moreover, Brother Wu Ji's spiritual power is not bad. He can protect you. You have always been protecting others. In the future, you can enjoy the feeling of being protected by others. Most importantly, Brother Wu Ji's mother passed away a long time ago. You don't have to deal with the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issues. Otherwise, with your cold appearance, you'll definitely be made difficult by your mother-in-law. You don't even know that my mother-in-law-to-be acts arrogantly all day long. She feels that she's superior to others. However, she can't do anything to me. Every time she comes, she brings me warmth. Ha! Yun Chujio babbled non-stop, as if she had a nagging disease. Yun Qi only talked to her occasionally, but it was all very simple. Yes, was it? Okay, and so on. Chi, are you hungry? I have a lot of delicious food here. I'll take it out for you to eat. Yun Chujio filled the entire stone table with the things she thought were delicious in her storage ring, and she warmly invited Yun Qi to eat. Yun Qi picked up her chopsticks and lightly ate a few mouthfuls. Not bad. This place is indeed suitable for a foodie like you. Yun Chujio's eyes reddened once again. I'm fine here. You have to be fine too. I've always been fine. On the contrary, it's you who looks heartless and soft-hearted. This is a world where the strong are respected. You can't be soft-hearted anymore. Otherwise, you'll implicate others. Although Yun Qi's tone was cold, there was a faint worry in her eyes. Yun Chujio nodded hard. I'll remember it. Chi, don't you like to hear me tell jokes the most? Let me tell you. The giraffe married monkey. A year later, the giraffe filed for divorce. I don't want to live such a life of jumping up and down anymore. Monkey was furious. Divorce it is. Who has ever seen someone climb a tree just to kiss? Haha, isn't that very funny? Yun Qi did not say anything, but her sharp eyes curved into a crescent moon. Seeing this, Yun Chujio began to tell jokes again. Yun Qi's side did not do much, but the weapon spirit hidden somewhere was rolling on the ground with laughter. Damn, although this stinky girl was very annoying, the jokes she told were still very funny. It was enough for it to laugh for a long time. It seemed that this stinky girl had completely fallen into the illusion that she had set up. Then she would just stay in there forever. She was still too young to fight with it. Chapter 1178 was too arrogant in the back garden. There were not only pavilions and pavilions, but also bedrooms and study rooms. Everything was available. Yun Chujio was always with Yun Qi, talking about everything. Yun Qi listened quietly. Occasionally she would fight with Yun Chujio and Yun Qi. Most of the time, Yun Chujio was beaming with joy. However, sometimes she would secretly wipe her tears behind Yun Qi's back. Although the weapon spirit could set up an illusion, it could not see the specific illusion of the person who entered the realm. It saw that Yun Chujio's eyes were often red, and it could not help but wonder, what kind of illusion did this stupid girl enter? Why did she cry and laugh at the same time? Was she crazy? In this way, 10 days passed in a row. On this day, Yun Chujio placed a sumptuous meal on the stone table. Chi, I'll toast you with a cup of tea instead of wine. Yun Chujio poured 2 teacups full, and one of them was handed to Yun Qi. Yun Qi didn't say anything and directly drank the tea. Yun Chujio said with a smile, Chi, you always do things so straightforwardly. Chi, do you know? Ever since I transmigrated to this world, I received family and love, and I also had friendship. But the most regretful thing for me was that I would never see you again. You were the only light and warmth in my previous life, and you were also my biggest concern. I know you look cold on the surface, not human, but your heart is purer than anyone else. If it was not for you, I would have died. So I love money like my life. I just want to save enough money one day, so that we can leave the organization. Unexpectedly, I did save enough money. We also escaped from the organization. I was struck by lightning to the transmigration. I know that you will be very, very sad when you know that I'm dead, but you must be well. You must meet that man who understands you. That man must be 10,000 times better than that bastard Yun Ling. Yun Chi stared at Yun Chujio for a long time, and then 2 shallow dimples appeared on her face. Good. Seeing this, Yun Chujio hugged Yun Chi's thigh and wailed. Chi, although I know that everything is an illusion and fake, I really miss you too much. That's why I'm willing to fall into the illusion and not leave. However, there are many people outside the trial tower who care about me. I can't stay in the illusion forever. Now I have a new goal. I want to cultivate well. There will definitely be a day when I become a god. At that time, I can tear open the void and come to see you. If you're willing, I'll bring you to the world I'm in. I will introduce Brother Wu Ji and the others to you. We will be happy together, okay? Following Yun Chujio's words, Yun Chi and everything in front of her turned into nothingness. Yun Chujio did not have the time to care about it. She sat on the ground and wailed loudly. Cough, 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 cough. Yun Chujio, you have passed the 9th level of the trial tower. You can leave now. Although Qi Ling said these words unwillingly. However, someone had passed the 9th level. Even if it wanted to cheat, it had no choice. Otherwise, it would be punished by the heavens. Get lost. Can't you see that I haven't howled enough? You don't even have the ability to see. Yun Chujio said fiercely and continued to howl. Qi Ling was jumping. Arrogant. Too arrogant. If it wasn't for the fact that I couldn't beat you, I would definitely teach you a lesson. However, inside this trial tower, there was only the demonic beast formed by the formation. It had no way to teach Yun Chujio a lesson, and could only stare blankly. Chapter 1179. An hour later, Yun Chujio finally had enough. She wiped her tears and looked at the Qi Ling beside her. Then she jumped in fright. Fuck? What are you? You're too ugly. Stupid girl. You're talking nonsense. This Qi Ling is obviously the most handsome Qi Ling. Qi Ling almost fainted. This Qi Ling was obviously handsome and handsome, how could she be ugly? Yun Chujio pouted. It seems that you are not only mentally ill, but also have a problem with your taste. When did Sanjian become the standard of handsomeness? Could it be that you are referring to the standard of handsome men in the frog world? You are obviously a black frog, but you still call yourself a handsome man. You are really shameless. Bitch. You are driving me mad. Do you believe that I will trap you in the 9th floor forever? I will never let you out. Qi Ling was jumping around, looking more like a black frog. Yun Chujio pouted. If you dare to do that, would you wait for me to finish howling? Stop playing tricks in front of me, or I'll turn you into a roasted frog. You dare. Qi Ling was fierce on the outside but weak on the inside. However, when it saw Yun Chujio directly striking at it with a purple lightning bolt, it was immediately terrified. Little fairy, I'm joking. How could I do such a shameless thing? Look, you've been here for a long time, shouldn't you go out? Otherwise, the people outside will be worried about you. Stop fooling around. Where's the reward? I've cleared the level. Shouldn't there be a mountain of supreme-grade spirit stones and tens of thousands of immortal artifacts? Qi Ling was so angry that she almost fainted. Do you think I'm a treasure basin? And a mountain of supreme-grade spirit stones and tens of thousands of immortal artifacts. Why don't you go and rob them? Little fairy, my trial tower is for people to train. How can there be any reward? Have you heard of anyone who cleared the first level and got the reward? Qi Ling's eyes flashed with a trace of treachery. Yun Chujio sneered twice. Little black frog, do you know what is the most unique characteristic of me, Yun Chujio? Xiaohei frog? Qi Ling almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This smelly girl's mouth was really too sarcastic. Little fairy, isn't your most unique characteristic a beautiful person with superb spiritual power? Although Qi Ling wanted to strangle Yun Chujio to death, he still said obsequiously, "Humph. Stop flattering me. Although what you said is the truth, my greatest characteristic is that I never leave empty-handed. If you don't give me something good, do you believe that I will tear down your 9th floor? I will turn your back garden into ruins." Yun Chujio said fiercely. Qi Ling rolled his eyes and said, "Little fairy, to tell you the truth, there is really no reward for passing the 9th floor. How about this? I still have some private money, so I will give it to you." After saying that, Qi Ling dropped dozens of supreme-grade spirit stones on the ground. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and put the spirit stones into her storage ring. Then, she looked at Qi Ling with a faint smile. "Xiaohei, do you think he'll believe that you only have so much? Do you want to take it out voluntarily, or do you want me to force you to take it out? Originally, I didn't want to enter the trial tower, but you forced me in. I suffered so much because of you. Don't you think we should settle the score?" After saying that, Yun Chujio commanded the 8 immortal swords to fly around the weapon spirit. Every time, they barely brushed past the weapon spirit's body. The weapon spirit was so frightened that its triangular eyes stood on their ends. Qi Ling, San Jiaoyan, Qi Ling. Chapter 1180, I will come again, little fairy, fairy speaks but doesn't act. Quickly put this thing away. Qi Ling was about to cry. This was a fucking pervert. How could there be such a strong spiritual sense in the first level of the spirit sect? To be able to command 8 immortal swords, he was simply inhuman. Moreover, you already have 8 immortal swords, why are you still blackmailing me? It's not easy for me to save some private money. With a bitter face, Qi Ling poured out more than 100 top-grade spirit stones. Then, with a sobbing voice, she said, "Little fairy, we really don't have any more this time. You also know that these top-grade spirit stones are not cabbages. These 200 are already a lot." Yun Chujio curled her lips. She knew that Qi Ling must have a lot of top-grade spirit stones, but compared to top-grade spirit stones, she wanted some spirit tools or secret books more. Therefore, she said fiercely, "Even if you don't have any spirit stones, you should have something good, right? For example, a treasure map of an immortal tool? If you don't have it, I will shave all your fur and make you a naked frog." Seeing that Yun Chujio was really going to make a move, Qi Ling shouted anxiously, "Stop! Stop! I will give it to you." Qi Ling reluctantly handed Yun Chujio a jade token and a sheepskin scroll. "Little fairy, there is really nothing left this time." Yun Chujio took the jade token and sheepskin scroll and looked at them. They were similar to the ones she got in the Wuwei Tower. They seemed to be the same kind of goods. She didn't know what these jade tokens and maps were used for, however, the things that came out of the divine artifact couldn't be wrong. She just had to keep them. Yun Chujio sneered. "Xiaohei, don't think that I don't know that you have a lot of supreme-grade spirit stones. However, the illusion that you set up for me allowed me to see someone I really want to see. I'll let you off today. Send me out." Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the weapon spirit of the trial tower hurriedly brought Yun Chujio to a teleportation point. Qi Ling and Yun Chujio had already arrived at a teleportation point. "Little fairy, don't come in after you leave. The demonic beasts here are too weak. They're not your match at all." The weapon spirit said obsequiously, thinking to himself, "Don't come and harm me. I don't want you to plunder all the supreme-grade spirit stones that I have left. Don't worry. They'll come here often in the future. Although the demonic beasts here are a little stupid, they can still increase my combat experience. We'll meet again. See you later." Yun Chujio stepped into the teleportation array after saying that. Qi Ling watched Yun Chujio disappear with a bitter face. It was over. It seemed that the remaining supreme-grade spirit stones would be taken away by this little pervert sooner or later. This little pervert was already so perverse on the first level of the spirit sect. If her spiritual power became stronger, wouldn't it be as easy as playing with her? Oh God, I hope you can bless this little pervert to find another trial location as soon as possible. Please don't let her come in again. It was noon outside the trial tower. Everyone spontaneously gathered outside the trial tower to watch. After all, someone had broken through to the 9th level of the trial tower. This was a once-in-lifetime opportunity. Yin Sulian's injuries had basically healed. Although she did not dare to get close to Xuewuji, she still could not help but run outside the trial tower to watch. She heard everyone's discussion about Yun Chujio, something like a rare genius that appeared once in 1,000 years. She snorted coldly and said, "It's just dog shit and luck. There's no way she can break through to the 9th level." Just as Yin Sulian's words fell, a figure was ejected from the trial tower and coincidentally landed on Yin Sulian's body. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.